Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Those who are in person and those who are joining us via Zoom, really appreciate all of you gathering for this important event this evening. We are together to address a critical issue in our community, and that is disability services, supports, wraparound services, and housing. All of these things come together to make a huge difference in the lives of our community members who are living with disability. So today, we have the pleasure of hearing from families, individuals with lived experience, some of their service providers, experts in the field, as well as others who are going to share their perspectives from both workforce, training, advocacy, home and community-based services, and disability housing. And so, I welcome you again. Thank you for being here. And tonight we can create a huge movement to make Forsyth County the leader in inclusive housing developments and inclusive services for people with disabilities in their community. Thank you all. I want to give a quick shout out to some of our special co-sponsors and those who have helped make tonight possible. So I first want to thank our DJ in the back, DeMarlo Brannon, for raising the roof for us. DeMarlo has always kept the party happening. Thank you, sir. I want to also thank our friends Moji Coffee and More for coming out and providing beautiful beverages and food. We've got special cookies that say inclusion on them. Grab a cookie. And Moji does a wonderful service in our community for employment supports for people with disabilities. I want to thank our friends Partners Behavioral Health for helping to share the message about this meeting tonight and critical conversation. Thank you very much. And welcome to Forsyth County. Also a big shout out to Osprey Village, who has been a huge supporter of the initiative to find inclusive housing options. They drove all the way from South Carolina, so that's a long drive. We have our friends, the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, who have helped to put this together as well, creating an awesome opportunity for us to work with their teams across workforce, housing, and other areas. Enrichment Center, our host, give it up. Woo! Thank you, Amy, and her amazing team, Jonathan, Deanna, and all the staff who helped make this event come together tonight. I could not have done it without them. I want to thank our IDD advisory and the NC Waiver Action Team. Hey, Bill. They have been a huge advocacy movement in our community in the past few years, bringing the awareness of the innovation waiver and the lack of supports. We're not funding 14,000 persons who are waiting on an innovation waiver, and we'll learn more about that later. Big shout out to Solutions for Independence on the right back there. We have Adrian and Mark and Brian and Dave all representing, and they co-sponsored our food and drink for the night, so thank you guys. Really appreciate that. We also have a program that will be shared tonight regarding Money Follows the Person. So I want to thank Dr. Pakorn Sawat, or better as she prefers, Tracy, for helping to put that component of our program together tonight. Also, a Bridge for Achievement for helping to sponsor Dana Alley's provider agency. Our friends Family Support Network, Rosa, thanks for being here. And then, of course, but not least, our friends Mount Eagle College and Home Care. Thank you, guys. Now, I do not believe I've missed anybody, but if I did, come get me. All right, so without further ado, I'll go ahead and kick us off, as I know we have a tight schedule tonight. We have a lot of content to get through, and I want to make sure that all of the voices and persons who are here to share have the opportunity to be heard by all of you. So first, we are going to start off the event by introducing families who are going to share their perspectives about what they would like to see in Forsyth County as it relates to housing and disability support services. And so first, we are going to hear from none other than Matthew Potter, who many of you know, and he is a current faculty adjunct at Mount Eagle College and a longtime advocate in the field of disability services. So without further ado, Mr. Potter, please take it away. Welcome, Mr. Potter, everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. I wish I could be there in person, probably within the next month or two. Those of you who know me, who are used to seeing me out and about in the community, will start seeing me more often, since a lot of the positive dominoes that needed to fall in place are starting to. But in the meantime, I'm thankful that we are able to continue the remote option for a variety of reasons. And I'm thankful to be there tonight in the way that I am. So I wanted to just go ahead and give a testimonial about the way that the housing issue impacts me and others in the community. So I'm going to read out a statement regarding that fact and this topic. So as a man with a disability who's rapidly approaching 35 years old, the lack of housing options for people like me serves as a sobering reminder that the community I live in is not currently for me. Furthermore, the fact that my parents are aging and that I still need to live with them serves as not only a source of frustration, but also fear. I need to know that I have a place to go when the tragic but inevitable happens when my parents move on, though of course we hope that that's a long time from now. I lived on my own for the last year and a half of my college career at Wake Forest University, which proved that with the proper housing and supports, living independently within my community is entirely possible. Since that time, though my parents try their best, I am more isolated, more stressed, more anxious, less able to engage with my community, and stuck behind a massive number of societal barriers. This vision of an integrated community is not a pipe dream. It is an entirely achievable reality that is being callously ignored by the systems that should be in place to support. It is not easy, nor am I saying that it won't take sacrifices. I am merely saying that something that benefits those with disabilities will benefit everyone. Universal access will never restrict those who don't need it. We as a community, as a country, as a society, and as a world need to decide what kind of future we want to have, and for those who are older, what kind of legacy they wish to leave. Initiatives like the ones that are going to be discussed today are visions for a brighter future for everyone, a world with fewer restrictions, fewer barriers, and more universal joy. It's extremely painful when I know that I and so many others, when I know that what I and so many others need is so achievable, and yet some of those in a position of power to change these obstacles continue to consciously make decisions to choose to keep us apart. We don't want to be invisible. We don't want to be alone. We don't want to be special or exceptional. We merely want to be human. So I'd ask those in power one simple question. When you look at me, do you see a human? If you don't, ask yourself why. If you do, instead, ask yourself what we're waiting for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. Those are powerful words, and I appreciate you sharing them tonight. I decided to make a small change to our agenda and let Matt speak first, because after going through our trial run last night, his words were so powerful, I thought it really helped to open this up, this conversation that is so important. So Jonathan, we can go to the first slide now. So a little bit of background information before we hear from more families and persons with lived experience. You know, we have some pretty scary statistics for Winston-Salem as it relates to disability supports. We can go to that first slide there, Jonathan. Thank you, sir. So we recently had an article come out, and the article was where cities ranked as far as being favorable to persons with disabilities. And Winston-Salem came 176th out of 182 cities. We are at the bottom of the barrel, my friends. And so we have work to do, both in our communities and in ourselves, to change this reality. So economy, we ranked 77th out of 182. Things that were looked at were affordable housing, cost of living, presence of public housing wait lists for people with disabilities and seniors, the presence of employment first opportunities. For quality of life, we ranked 175th out of 182. They looked at graduation rates for students with disabilities. They looked at wheelchair accessible communities. They looked at the effectiveness of our Medicaid programs and the share of accessible homes. Healthcare, we ranked 157th out of 182. We have some of the biggest medical centers in the state here locally. How is that true? They looked at home health aides and the availability of direct care staff. They looked at the percentage who are COVID vaccinated, accessible healthcare services, and hospitals per capita. So once again, we have significant work to do in these areas. Next slide, sir. We also know that there are major Medicaid coverage gaps. Today, there are about 480 persons in Forsyth County who are served under the innovation waiver. There are over 800 in our county alone who are waiting on a slot. That is stopping them from achieving their full potential and their maximum life. We also know that across the state, there are over 14,000, last I heard it might be even 15,000 now, waiting on an innovation waiver. We also know that year by year, there are cuts to state-funded services. I do not have to ask my partner's friends to come up, but they will cheer when they hear that because they know how an impact that has on the people that they serve in their communities to lose those funds year by year. And so these are some significant issues that we face. Next slide, sir. As it relates to affordable housing, a person who is living on Social Security income alone will spend 92% of their income on housing alone. What can you do with 8% of your income? Not much. That means you don't have a lot of social opportunities, leisure, recreation, might not even have food security. And so approximately 9.4% or 821,000 people in North Carolina have a disability. Statewide housing is less costly than the national average, but yet it is still out of reach for individuals with disabilities at the lowest income. Next slide, sir. We're in the news, but not in a good way, I'm afraid. As you can see here, there have been several articles published in the last year or two that talk about the crisis we are in for housing, both affordable and disability services. Recently, we know that Crystal Towers, an affordable housing complex, elevators broke. Both of them literally had fire department having to get people up and down from their apartments every time they had to leave. That is the terrible situation that many people in our community find themselves, literally dependent upon our social services to get in and out of their home. Next slide. And so in 2017, another disability,
right?
If you are on the Zoom, if you would kindly mute, that would be very helpful. Thank you so much. In 2017, another disability rights North Carolina suit alleging that thousands of people with IDD are forced to live in institutions and that the state fails to provide many people with IDD the services they need in order to live in and participate in their community. The court found on behalf of the plaintiff in the suit, and the state is working to implement remedies. So we know that there is a legal precedent for this movement, for this change. Next slide. And so North Carolina spends more to serve individuals in congregate care settings than it spends on community integrated services. That means that today we operate under an institutional bias toward those services and away from home and community-based supports. So those gaps impede community integration and inclusion for our most vulnerable community members. Next slide. And where does it all begin? This paper recently came out just before we put this program together, and I thought this visual was powerful. I'm an educator by trade, and I started in inclusive education services at UNC Greensboro and learned a whole lot about the power of inclusion. This tells you that story. If you are served in segregated settings starting in kindergarten and thereon after, you are most likely going to have lower life outcomes, quality of life outcomes. If you are served in inclusive settings all throughout your life, you are going to live in inclusive settings, work in inclusive settings, and have relationships with people in our community. And so this graphic shows that the evidence is there, that it begins very early on, as early as kindergarten placement. Thank you. So next, we're going to dive back into some more stories from our families to get another perspective about what this impact has on our community members. And so I would like to welcome up next, I believe the next slide there, after Mr. Potter, is going to be the Alleys. So I'd like to welcome up Josh and Charles Alley. Please give them a round of applause.
Thank you. Hello, Winston-Salem. Hope everyone is doing well. And I'm looking forward to helping you all. We can win, Winston-Salem. All right, here we go then. My name is Josh Alley, and I'm 25 years old. Oh, I got to. Okay. My name is Josh Alley, and I am 25 years old. I was born and raised in Winston-Salem, and I attended high school at University of North Carolina School of the Arts. In 2020, I graduated from UNCG with a bachelor's degree in music performance. Clarinet to be exact. When I was 2.5, I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, ASD. For several years, I received applied behavior analysis therapy, which enabled me to learn many skills that helped me succeed in school and life. In addition, I currently receive support through the Medicaid Innovation Waiver. My goal is to be able to live as independently as possible, and I have friends and social connections who help me to achieve this goal. To attain it, I will need to find a place to live, hopefully with a roommate. I hope to be able to work in the music field while playing and teaching clarinet and saxophone. With the help of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, or VR, I've recently started to work part-time as an assistant music teacher at Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, our very own school district. There are several challenges I will need to overcome to achieve my goals. A big one is finding some way to go to work, the grocery store, or wherever without transportation. I would be stuck at home. Maybe forever. We don't want that. Any place I will live, I will have to be some form of transportation. It will need to have some form of public transportation. Other areas I need assistance with are social interactions and relationships with others. I often have difficulty knowing what to say and how to talk to people. Through Innovation Waiver Services and with my parents' help, I can get advice and support on overcoming these difficulties, but they are challenges I will continue to face in the future. The ideal situation for me would be for me to be a part of a community where I would have friends and social supports like you guys, where I could easily reach out for advice on social or work-related interactions, and where I would have access to services available to someone in my situation. This community would be located near transportation, and I could be surrounded by people and understand me and the challenges I deal with. We really are all in this together. And thank you so much for your kind attention and time. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh and Charles, for that powerful presentation and those amazing words. Josh, thank you so much, my friend. Let's see who we have sharing their story next. Next, we have up the Rices, and the Rices were unable to be here tonight to share, so I will be reading on their behalf. My husband, Charlie, and our daughter, Olivia, moved to North Carolina from Michigan in July of 2019. Olivia is 30 years old and has both IDD and physical disabilities. It was very challenging trying to locate services for her. We stumbled across the term ICF and began to explore that option. January 23rd, 2020, we relocated Olivia to an ICF. In March of 2020, COVID became a part of all of our lives. We were unable to visit Olivia for weeks. She was completely shut off from her family and friends, just like many others. Once we were able to visit the ICF, and it became clear to us that it was not the best choice for Olivia. We began to explore other options. Matthew James spoke to us about the MFP program and helped us apply. In September 30th, 2021, Olivia was granted the MFP. Olivia is presently enrolled in the Enrichment Center's day program. She is in her community with her peers and loves her time there. Olivia is so much happier. It is our goal and dream to see Olivia living in a supportive living situation with wraparound supports. Olivia loves being in her community with both her disabled and non-disabled friends. We would love to work towards this goal so that when we are older and no longer able to care for Olivia at home, she will already have her supports in place. We want to encourage the leadership and residents of Forsyth County to support individuals with IDD so that they can live independent lives in their community. In order to do this, Forsyth County needs to provide support for day programs, companies that can provide in-home staffing for our population, and affordable and accessible housing. The IDD community needs easy access to dental and medical care. These individuals have a variety of special needs, but one thing we know for sure is they are better served living in their own communities with their families and friends. Thank you, the Rices. Next, I am going to welcome Lisa Bellamy to unmute herself on the Zoom to share her story and that of Sincere. Lisa, are you with us tonight?
Yes, I am, Matthews. Hello.
Thank you, Lisa. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you all for allowing me to have this time with you. I would like to read a statement. We have had the pleasure of raising our grandson, Sincere Smith, who has cerebral palsy. He's been with us for the last 9 years. He has accomplished many goals with the support of his medical team, physicians, caregivers, and advocates that were assigned to help us with his transition in 2011. When Sincere graduated in June of 2019, I began looking for programs in our area, Iredell County, that would help with the next level of his life as an adult. And to my surprise, there weren't many programs in our community, which raised a great concern for us. So as I ponder more and more about what would benefit the children and adults of Sincere's peers, I thought more about our little community on the lake. The word safe haven came to mind. A community created for children and adults that can feel the presence of being at home. Programs that would include grants for supported living, that will build new homes and remodel existing homes and apartments. Modernizing and equipping them with new technology that will support a safe and secure environment for the residents, and also having grocery stores and mini malls and other shops on the grounds of the facilities in close proximity. This would give the residents a sense of independency and also give the parents of the residents that reside on the grounds a peace of mind if this is the only choice given to them outside of the home. It's difficult enough being separated from a loved one, so why should miles in between be added? We are all living in a new era. Our loved ones should not feel as if they have been left behind. Living in a facility that feels like a hospital, rehabilitation center, or an institute can cause emotional scarring and make anyone feel uneasy. especially these children and adults that need special care, medical care around the clock. So there must be a change in this area of housing. Our community also needs more after-school programs for children and adults. The program coordinators of the after-school program will be responsible for hiring competent staff that will be trained and equipped with skills that include giving CPR, seizure protocol, and other medical skills required by the state board, but limited. The students will have different activities during hours of operation, from participating in craft and serving lunch and snacks when attended on a full-time basis. I would like to add to our future discussions that we need educational programs brought back into our communities for families that need extended care for their loved ones during the year, especially during the summer months. The educational programs could offer higher education, learning courses, computer training, and workshops that would help with our children and adults' communications and social skills, which will help them accomplish their goals and survival skills for the future. The services should also integrate physical therapy, horseback riding therapy, water therapy, and other activities that will help with their physical needs. I hope as a grandmother, parent, and advocate is that we all come together with our voices for our children, grandchildren, siblings, nieces, or nephews, and rewrite some of our state laws and add laws that will make a change, not just for our children's generation, but the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
So welcome.
I appreciate you being with us tonight, and we hope you continue to have that vision come to life. All right, I think next on our agenda, we have Chris Pedersen here to join us and share a few words about his family with Diane and Lauren. Hey, take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Matthew. Good evening. So I'm going to be 60 years old in February, and my wife Diane and I have been raising Lauren since she was born 22 years ago. And we learned, much to our surprise and at the time disappointment and frustration, that she has a number of challenges. Initially, we thought she was on the autism spectrum, or that she had other types of disorders. We learned when she was 15 that they're actually genetic abnormalities that are manifest by Lauren being nonverbal, being severely developmentally delayed, operating at about a 20 to 24 month level, and also having epilepsy. So we've been struggling for years with trying to find a way to balance her needs while Diane and I were able to live some kind of meaningful lives ourselves as parents of a child on the IDD spectrum. And we were very fortunate. Initially, we were in Colorado that had extensive services that covered a number of things that allowed for Diane to support Lauren, although she did have to quit her job in order to provide the supports that Lauren needed. In Virginia, we were able to get Lauren care that she needed and did things through the public school system that actually was very, very beneficial for Lauren as she was in an elementary school age. We then moved to Texas, and although Lauren did not get on anything near the equivalent of an innovation waiver, she was able to get some services, and we were blessed in having a number of caregivers that actually came from her own school settings. There was a Best Buddy program at her high school, and we had a number of those best buddies that actually ended up caring for Lauren in a program that I self-directed as the employer of record for those particular services for Lauren. The great thing about those is that it allowed Lauren to be with her peers, her typical peers, that she really relished. So they got to take her out to the mall. They got to take her into a clothing store. They got to take her to a movie theater. They got to walk around with her on playgrounds. Although Diane and I could do some of those things, it's very different to watch Lauren interact with young women and men that were her own age. And it's incredible to see that although we talk a lot about issues in typical and non-typical, folks interacting together. There are certain stigmas or biases that members of IDD have. What just amazed me is that these best buddies, these peers in high school, college, would interact with Lauren and they could see the difference that they were making for her. Flash forward when my wife and I were actually here visiting my parents, who've lived here since the turn of the century when Dad retired from Wake Forest, and we happened to attend a meeting of the IDD Advisory Committee with Bill Donahue, Matthew James, and others there, and we learned about the things that were going on here in Forsyth County. And what struck Diane and I is that we need to be thinking about Lauren's future. Lauren is 22. She will likely live a half a century or more. Think about that. 50 years that Lauren will likely be living and need to find a way to survive when she has no concept of safety, no concept of hot and cold, no ability to prepare her own food, to feed herself with assistance, to be directed to be in transportation. Now, Lauren has great attributes. She's friendly. She is cute, as you can tell. Proud papa. She is very affectionate. She has great receptive language, so she tells you what she would like to do. And she is getting the benefits of some of those here in North Carolina because she was initially in an ICF, and we then pulled her out of that through the Money Follows the Person program and have her in a day program here at the Enrichment Center. But as Diane and I are learning, after 9 months of living with our daughter, happy but separate, with a life of her own, where at the same time that my daughter could get the things that she felt like was important and we felt were important for her, and we could also have a quality of life as parents. We could drive to Charleston. We could go to Asheville. We could visit family in Texas. Some things that we would like to be able to do while also ensuring at the same time that Lauren is able to be cared for and to meet her needs. So as we have her in the home now, we look at a future that is possible in the middle of the 21st century, where Lauren can be in a house with a roommate or two, where there is live-in help, where there is proximate medical care, where her food is able to be provided to her, where she can take transportation through her electric vehicle or other means of, carbon-friendly, environmentally friendly things, to be able to go to a park, to be able to go to an art gallery, to be able to go to the mall, to be able to do the things that she wants. And what I have learned is that whatever you can imagine can happen. So the view that Diane and I have is, let's look at what life for Lauren is in 2050. Let's look at what that would mean. I mean, that seems like it's a long way from now. It's not. Okay, let's say 2030, 9 years from now. She's in a house, she has that, she's got those kinds of things, and what's enabled that to happen is housing programs. What we need to think about is large holistic programs like Osprey Village, matched with other things. We can find the money. By the way, government is great, but for every governmental program that's out there, there are the Elon Musks and the others out there that might provide support as well. So I would say, let's think big. Let's think about what can best serve the IDD community, and not only Lauren, but all of her contemporaries can be the beneficiaries as well. So thank you for allowing me to share some of those thoughts with you this evening.
Thank you, Chris. Very well said. Next, we have the Radionovs. So I would like to welcome Janie up to the stage. Come on up, my friend. Welcome, Janie, everyone.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm happy to say that my husband and I are looking forward to bringing our son Caleb home, to our home, to his new home. The adoption is just days away. It's so close to being completed. And our hearts have found that he needs to be with us, where we can provide continuous one-on-one support, care, and love. Today, Caleb lives in an institutional setting, and we want to see that change for him. So while his basic needs are being met, he's missing, as well as many of the others, that personal touch, attention, and the true love that you give your loved ones daily. We've seen for ourselves the difference that it makes in our loved one's life just in this short period of time. So with all of that being said, we realize that we're not as young as we once were, and we realize at the same point that Caleb's going to need a different setting at some point other than our own home. And not only because of our age, but because he will be a young man and he should experience life as an adult. For this reason, it is our desire that the city of Winston-Salem work now, because he's only 13, but that time, like we've heard before, that time's going to go by really fast. And we want to begin now providing a variety of options for the many folks with differing disabilities. There's a great need for what I feel is the two extremes of disabilities. First, we need housing for those who are higher functioning, but still need someone there to help manage their finances, cooking, transportation, and their safety. And then the other is for those with more complex needs, such as our Caleb. It's our desire to see one day him in his own home setting with a roommate and personal care assistant, so like a circle of friends 24 hours, where he can experience independence. Caleb needs and he deserves to be an inclusive member of our community and giving back in his own very special way.
Thank you, Janie. Thank you very much, Janie. Powerful words. And we have one more family to hear from tonight before we move on to the next portion of our presentation. So I'd like to welcome up Candy and Wyatt. Come on up, my friends.
Good evening. My name is Candy Wild. That is my youngest son, Dylan. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. We have been through so much, and all I want is my son home. But at the same time, I'm 56. Dad's gone, so that just leaves brother. Brother has a life to live too, so I don't expect White to all his life take care of Dylan. So yes, I need to take care, look forward for this guy to be able to live out in the community, but be able to work and be supportive through the community. We've been through a lot, Matthew. You know that, and Miss Jane. We're working on getting Dylan home for right now, and we have been separated for quite a few years, and it has took a torment. It's emotionally on me, Wyatt, and Dylan. It has impacted the whole family. So I've heard a lot of stories tonight, and it's hit home for me too. I want Dylan home, but at the same time, somewhere along the line, Mom's gonna go. He's got a life to live. Dylan's got a life to live, and I want him to be able to be supported out in the community and be around his friends. I miss my little man, but I'm sorry I'm cutting it short. There's just a lot of impact and stuff, and I don't want to get too emotional. Y'all forgive me for tonight, please. Wyatt, you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you, Wyatt. And just real quickly to add, I will tell you that the biggest barrier for Candy and Wyatt in getting Dylan home is housing. And so if we could solve the housing issue, they could be reunited. And so it's a moral imperative for this community to do something. All right. Thank you once again to all of the family members who shared their perspectives and persons with lived experience. Let's give one more big round of applause to all those brave sharers. Thank you. All right, so the next portion of our presentation is we are going to hear from various guests who are going to share about different programs that are helping people to live independently in their communities and be successful. So we call those our home-brewed solutions. So I hope you can appreciate that in our age of brewing our own beer and everything else, right? We got to make our own solutions. We got to figure this out together. This is our community. We can solve this problem. It's not going to come from the state or anybody else. We have got to figure this out here for Forsyth County. All right, let's see who we got up first, my friend. I'm going to welcome up Solutions for Independence, and we have Adrian Boone, Brian Dooley, and Mark Steele coming up stage to share a little bit about what services they provide. Let's give a big round of applause.
I'm going to give this to Dave and Brian.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Dooley, and I'm a community inclusion specialist here at Solutions for Independence. We're a federally funded nonprofit that offers 5 basic core services. We do advocacy, peer support, independent living skills. We refer people to other things. And we help people transition out of institutions. I wanted to come here today because we definitely need more housing. Most of the calls we receive have to do with housing. And unfortunately, it's very frustrating for me as a professional because my hands are kind of tied. The main program we use has a long waiting list. And we have no power over it. So we definitely support an initiative like this to help create housing. I would like to throw in that I rely on peer supports like me. Unfortunately, my mom just passed away. So I'm almost fully reliant on professionals like me. So I need higher training and highly paid staff so I can retain. It's hard to build relationships. It takes time. And you need to trust so you can live independently.
Hello, my name is Mark Steele. I'm the Executive Director with Solutions for Independence. I just wanted to reiterate what Brian was saying, that the housing need in our community, for any of you that work in the disability world, I think everybody knows the need for housing, and that's the reason we're here tonight. It's the greatest need that we get calls about, housing and the supports in the community that it takes. And so we're here to support Matthew and this initiative in any way that we can. We know it's a huge need, and we're here to help any way we can and push this thing through. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Solutions for Independence. Wow. Well, we learned a lot, and now you know who to call, right? Okay, good. Call Brian. All right, next we are going to welcome up the Enrichment Center to share a little bit about employment services and how we can help people be independent in their communities through employment opportunities. Take it away, Amy Stevens. Woo!
Just employment. Hello. First, thank you for coming out tonight. This is one of our second events actually in 20 months. So thank you for trusting us to be a safe environment for you to come to. And thank you for those on Zoom for being here. We're very happy to host this event tonight. Did you need to sit with me? Did I need support? I think we've heard from these parents, and they're hard to follow, to hear all these parents and then to come along, because I wish I had all the solutions. I think we've heard the vision for the future, and the vision for the future is very different than what parents wanted 10 years ago and 20 years ago. So it requires providers, not just the enrichment center, but the community providers, families, to come together and create new solutions and change. Y'all know change is hard, but that's what I think we're called to do right now, is really look to what do parents want from us rather than what can we offer them that they have to take. We've heard things like institutions, ICF. I don't think we heard group homes, but they're in there. Group living, community living, supported living, independent living, all those things were thrown out today. None of them are bad. They're all good. They're all programs that are needed at some point in time in people's lives. Everybody needs to have a continuum of services offered to them. It's just, I think now we're trying to add to that continuum and add additional services to support in the community that look different. So that's kind of what I know I'm recapping what was just said, but at the Enrichment Center, we don't do residential. And that's not our plan for the future, but how can we help people live better lives that are in the community setting? So Matt had asked me to talk about supported employment, because at the Enrichment Center, we provide supported employment. Most of you probably know what that is, but we have different funding streams for different people. Almost anyone can get this support. Basically, you have to have a shelter over your head. You have to have clothes. You have to have food. You have to have transportation to meet your basic needs. If you don't have those basic needs met, going in and finding a job is not going to happen. You're not going to keep it, or you're not going to get it. So once you've done those things we talked about tonight, I think it's real important to look at the next step, which is how can I bring in an income? It may mean 2 hours a week working for one person. It may mean 40 hours a week or something in between. But we think it's very important for people to have meaningful work opportunities, volunteer opportunities, and it's a big part of living a meaningful life. And that's our whole mission here at the Enrichment Center, is to help people live their best life. So what that looks like is you may need someone to help you prepare even how to dress for an interview, what you say on an interview, how to get up on time. It may be those supports that are needed. It may be someone to help you fill out the paperwork, to go online and fill out the application, to go with you to the interview, to interview with you, to help with orientation, to go to your job on the first day, help you get dressed, help you get ready, figure out transportation, how to get to the job. Being sure that you find a job that they can get to start with, and make sure they have transportation. So all that is part of supported employment. It doesn't stop there. It doesn't have to. It also can be being on the job with you, helping you figure out the task of the job, and then also staying long-term. If you need to have someone with you long-term, maybe that's required. Each person that comes in needs something different, and supported employment is there to help each person find out what they want to do and help them meet those needs that they have, and then be as independent as they can be, not to depend on us for their job, but us to help them have an income and be successful and have a more meaningful life. So that's what we do here at the Enrichment Center, among other things, community supports and some other stuff, but that's what Matt had asked me to talk about, is supported employment. We do think it's one piece of the whole puzzle. It takes all the pieces to come together, which is what I talked about earlier: family, community, other providers, partners, the state, all of us, Winston-Salem, coming together and figuring out solutions. And it's not just one solution. I think there needs to be lots of solutions and lots of opportunities, which means we have to adapt as providers and change and meet your needs as parents. I too am a parent. He didn't ask me to be on the panel. I wonder why. I have a child at home that's 20. We have this relationship. I don't know. I have a 21-year-old. I'm the transportation. I'm his housing. I'm his everything, because he's not funded. And he can work some, but I'm his job coach if he needs that. So I get it on all levels, and we get it here at the Enrichment Center, and we want to help be a part of whatever the solutions are moving forward. So thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you, Amy, and the Enrichment Center. Appreciate you sharing those awesome opportunities to get involved here and find employment opportunities as well as other community-based supports. All right, we are at an exciting point of our presentation as well. We are going to hear about the Money Follows the Person program. I have a hard time not introducing her as Dr. Pakornsawat, but she does not like it. So welcome Tracy to the stage, and she wished she could have been here, but we are so glad you're here on Zoom, Tracy. Take it away, my friend.
Great. Thank you so much, Matthew. I really appreciate that. As you said, I wasn't able to be there tonight, so I wanted to make sure everybody had some slides that they could take home with them about our program. My name is Tracy, and I am with a program called Money Follows the Person, and I am the professional development coordinator for the program, and I go out and I help with the different trainings and everything that goes out in the community. Next slide, please. So I'm hearing an echo somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it's coming. Okay, that's a little bit better. Thank you so much. So everybody here has been talking about trying to bring someone home, the challenges with housing, all of the things that are needed to be able to have the life that you live. So kind of you think about it, and it's this so-called simple concept that somebody can just go home from a facility to their community, and everything is going to be rainbows and sunshine and great things. But next slide. You guys have talked so much about the challenges, and this is one of my favorite diagrams that kind of talks about what you have been sharing tonight. There are so many barriers to being able to have somebody at home in a community and being able to live that life of their dreams. So these are just a handful of the things that have been talked about tonight, and there are many, many more that come into play. So we understand that this is an incredibly complex environment. There are a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of players, and sometimes they don't always connect. And so as a program, MFP wants to be able to help bridge that gap. Next slide. So our program is about helping people leave facilities and transition to a home and community-based setting. We have been around since 2009 when we started doing transitions, and of those transitions, we have been able to do 626 IDD transitions. Overall, we've had just a little bit over 1,400 transitions since 2009. We would love to be able to do more of those transitions, but as you guys have noted, there are some very significant barriers, and housing is one of those. So next slide. We are authorized to support 3 different populations, individuals with IDD, individuals with physical disabilities, and older adults. But the big piece with this is that they have to be able to transition either under the Innovations Waiver, the Traumatic Brain Injury Waiver, the Community Alternatives Program for Disabled Adults, or CAPDA, the Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, or PACE program. So if somebody fits within those and they're eligible for one of those programs, we might be able to help. So next slide. But we have a constraint for those that we can work with, and we are limited to having people transition from certain types of facilities. So these are the facilities that we are authorized under our federal grant funding to be able to support. So some of you are working with people who may be in some of these settings, but some who may not be. But we do want to help as many people as we can. And primarily for the IDD community, it is working with those ICFs, the state developmental centers, and then also the psychiatric residential treatment facilities, as long as that person qualifies for the Innovations Waiver. So those are the types of facilities we can bring people home from. Next slide. They do have to be at that facility for a minimum of 2 consecutive months. It has to be continuous. You can't go from one setting to home and then back in again. Unfortunately, that interrupts that eligibility period. And we are able to include time in acute care settings if that is needed. Next slide. So where can they go when they go home? So we've talked about a couple of them here. Coming home with family members, friends. That is kind of the most common one we see, but we do also help individuals who are going to an apartment that have their own name on the lease. They may have roommates, they may not. But as it was noted earlier, the number of those apartments are really, really limited. And if they are available, they may not be accessible. So it really causes some challenges in what we're able to help people with. And particularly for the IDD setting, we do have one other criteria that they can go to a home where it's a residence where there are no more than 4 unrelated individuals. So we can't really do group homes is what we have there. Next slide. As a program, what we do to help navigate this entire complex process is we provide transition coordination support. We have 1 or more individuals who are going to help the individual and the family navigate that process. We can't do it all, but we at least help to navigate that process. We're able to provide money to help with startup costs, maybe furniture, ramps, but it can also be things like housing deposits or apartment deposits. It can be deposits on utilities. It really depends on what the person needs, but we do have some flexibility to be able to use some money to help that initial transition to the home. And the other piece that has been a real benefit, Matthew talked earlier that there are 14,000 people in North Carolina on the innovations wait list. And in Forsyth County, there's 800 that are still on that wait list. As a state, MFP is only able to support 68 people per year on the innovations waiver. But for those 68 people that we can help, that is something that we are extremely happy to be able to do. So we help individuals get put on that priority list. We also help to get people into a priority access for housing. We talked about some programs that are out there to help, and the primary one is the Targeted and Key program. But again, the number of units that are available is extremely limited, but we are lucky to be able to get people higher on that list. So next slide. The next 2 slides are just some resources if you have questions or want more information. And I know Matthew said that these would probably be available to everybody afterwards. But I do want to make one other kind of comment outside of the slides. And I am so thrilled that Lauren and Olivia are here tonight as MFP transitions. It makes my heart soar to know that they're able to participate and do things like this, and that we were able to be a part of that. But again, we are just a small part, and it takes this community here to come together to overcome some of these things. And we are just as frustrated as you are about the housing and the challenges that are there. So we are here to help. We'll do what we can, and we're in this process with you. So thank you for having me here tonight, and I'll turn it back to you, Matthew.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Big round of applause for Tracy and the Money Falls program. Okay, let's see who we have to come and share with us all next. We have the IDD Advisory, the NC Waiver Action Team. Mr. Bill Donahue, come on up, my friend.
I was going to have you read something to me, but I can read it myself now. Do you see my sign here on my chest? What's it say? Dignity, support, advocacy, leadership, independence, choices. Where did that come from? Came from the Enrichment Center 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. It was designed by a student here because the DD advisory wanted to have something that symbolized what they stood for. And this came as a design. And somebody said, well, what are we going to pay him? I mean, they're trying to make money down there, for crying out loud. What are we going to pay him? And somebody said, well, maybe we could give him a $50 stipend. Well, one of the staff came down and says, what's a graphic designer make in Winston-Salem? How long did it take? That's what we're paying him. That's vision. That's vision. Well, my wife and I started on some housing programs 20 years ago for our son. And we got together with some of the people who were in this audience to think about what we might do collectively to live together, to find the right housing. It fell apart. It was land, it was money, it was personalities, it just didn't work. The difference is we didn't have the vision that Matthew and Matt and the team have brought here, the kind of vision that puts our people front and center. So I want to talk to you about the numbers that are on my back. I can't read them to you, but you've already heard some of them. My brain is a bit of a buzz because I've been hearing all these things and I keep scratching my notes. I want to address Chris Peterson, the old man at 60. I'm 77, man. We're working on this housing stuff. 2 years ago, under Tim Flavin's leadership, we developed at the IDD advisory. This is a group of parents and providers and self-advocates who have been together for 40 years talking about the needs of our families. And we decided the singular thing we were going to do was to attack the registry of unmet needs. Now, I met somebody earlier who didn't know what that was, but she knew what the waiver was. She knew what the run was. Well, they're actually all the same things. It's what government does to us. It just confuses us. And they don't have much trouble doing it. When we started it, as you heard, there were 800 people on the wait list. What she didn't share with you was we hadn't gotten a new waiver, a new slot in 5 years. And guess what? There are none projected for this year or for next year either. We have one woman who passed away this year. She was part of our ID advisory. She had waited 19 years. Can you imagine what 19 years of support would be? Let's talk what that support might mean. The innovations waiver is budgeted at $135,000 a year if you qualify for that. The average award is only about $60,000. But what would you do with $60,000 a year for 19 years? Think about that. Think about the services that might be arrayed for you in your community, with your loved ones, with your church, with your child care. I think there's so many things that I would like to get into, but the dilemma we have here is that it's too long for people to wait. And that's our tagline, it's too long. If Josh were still here, I would have him help me shout, it's too long. It didn't take us long to accept as the DD advisory that solving Forsyth County's problems wasn't going to be in our scope. But the real problem was in the state. It's a statewide problem, it's a national problem. And that's what the North Carolina Waiver Action Team finally decided to do, and many of them are gathered here tonight. Today, we want everyone to sign up on our registry, and we'll tell you why. It's not just a registry for people who are waiting, it's a registry for people who are concerned about those who are waiting, and we'd like you to help us out. There are two central linchpins to all of this. One is legislation and one is funding. And that's where the grassroots is going to start, and that's where we're going to go. We are your North Carolina Waiver Action Team. Our expansion statewide created some awareness and some buzz. The North Carolina Council for Developmental Disabilities saw what we were doing and asked us to apply for a $600,000 grant over 4 years. It was too big for us, even though it did exactly the things we wanted to do, which is to create greater understanding and access and change across the state. So we subcontracted with a group who got the award called LAND. That stands for the Leadership Alliance for Neurodevelopment, to do grassroots work. And that's what we're doing. We're starting this year, and for the next 4 years, or however long it takes, we're going to make an impact on that registry. We have people partnering with us in that grant, and listen to the people who have stepped up. Disability Rights North Carolina, the Autism Society, the ARC, DHHS, Department of Public Instruction, First and Families, Family Support Network. The list goes on. They've agreed that this is the time for them all, for the first time, I think, in the history of North Carolina's development movement, to gather together and address this problem. So that's another reason for signing up on our registry, so you can get involved and learn about that. You're going to get, in exchange for just putting your name there, information about what's going on with the legislature within your community and your county. So I'm here on behalf of the LAND, the DD Advisory, our generous county commissioners, to talk to you about how important it is to get the innovations waiver. It puts housing within reach of almost every family who needs it. Deborah and I, my wife, who I think is going to be joining us a little bit, and every member of our team receive calls each week from desperate parents who want to go back to work so they can pay for their house, so they can pay for their child care, so they can pay for their medical bills. I mentioned that there was a $135,000 cap on the most severe. Today it costs $250,000 to put somebody in an institution. It's too long to wait to get people out of institutions and back into their communities. As parents, we have huge and diverse needs with our uniquely gifted children. But the innovations waiver is not the only thing. It's not the golden ticket. It's one of many things that are available to help with services, direct care, transportation, housing. It's one of the reasons we're here. It's not the golden ticket, but it is part of the way toward development of dignity and independence. Our son Jeremy, I think, is going to join us with his mother. He has been able to work, to attend beyond academics, to engage socially, to plan for a marriage, to go to his church, to be with his friends in ways that other families can only hope, because he got the waiver. His life is fully expressed, and it's what we want for any of our children. As Chris mentioned, we have seen dramatic changes in the life expectancy of our children. When Jeremy was born, I ran home from the hospital and looked at an old medical journal and found somebody with Down syndrome had a life expectancy of about 35. He's already past that, and he's going to double it. Things have changed. I'm not going to double it from 77, I'll tell you that. So we put him at risk by not planning for his future. And every one of the parents who are sitting out there do the same thing. By not planning for the future, you're putting your children at risk. Just in the last week, a week ago today, we moved Jeremy from our home into a shared rental facility. We've gone from home and community-based services to supported living. It's a dramatic change for us, for him, but everybody is happy with it. It's working out really well. Yay, it's a good thing. Now, you're going to meet some people tonight who have been there. This is only a 5-year-old program in this state, and you're going to meet some people who have pioneered before us, and they're the ones who need they're the ones who need the applause. So I'd like you to sign up for the registry, our registry, so you can get information, so you can learn about people who are on the registry and seeking the waiver. It's time to move forward with housing, with life's rich opportunities. It's too important, and it's been, what? Too long to wait. Thank you very much.
Well, that'll get you going. And I have a job to do with them, so I've got to find stories. So help me with my job. Come help me get some stories for the run. We got to get those important messages shared across the state, okay? So reach out to Bill, reach out to myself. We'll be happy to get you included in this big demonstration project. Next, we had Dottie Foley with Hope, North Carolina, and unfortunately, Dottie had real-life situation happen this afternoon. Dottie is one of the pioneers behind the supportive living level 3 in the state, and was really excited to tell you the story tonight about how her son Dylan has successfully moved into his own apartment. At one point in time, Dylan lived in a state-operated facility for those who have the most complex support needs. And today he's able to be supported in his community, in his own apartment, successfully for many years. But unfortunately, guess what happened? My friend Tim Gallagher and many others here know tonight. Somebody didn't show up for their shift. And there is no backup direct support professional in place to help them out. And so guess who's pulling a shift tonight? Dottie. And so I think that underscores how critical, how desperate, how impacted our system is when someone like Dottie is in the same situation as well. And so I want to just thank Dottie for being willing to be here but unable to be here, and I hope in the future she can join us. But I just want to share that with you, that she sends her thank you for all of you being here, wishes she could be here, and hopefully in the future, okay? Let's see who we else have. The First Resource Center. My goodness, this is my good friend Janet Price Farrell. She is going to talk a little bit about her agency as well as her son Austin and his journey on the innovation waiver to independence. So my friend Janet, please take it away.
Welcome. I'm so glad to be here and tell you a little bit about me first, and mostly Austin, because Austin's the reason that we're here. I'll tell you, I have a slide that has little pictures of Austin, so you can put them up and I'll go back and forth as necessary. I'm a little bit of an anomaly. I'm a parent of two sons. One has a career in solar energy, and the other one is Austin, and he's on the waiver. Almost 20 years ago, I started an advocacy organization to help parents with IEPs. And it progressed quite a bit. In 2017, we started providing supported living for individuals in our area. And this past August, not even 3 months ago, Austin moved into his own place. So here's a picture of Austin in his place, in his own house. He calls it his apartment, even though it's a condo. Next slide. And we got him moved in. We had to do a little bit of remodeling. Next. And so he asked, I said, what did he want his apartment? What colors did he want? And he said, orange, blue, and purple. His father forbade me to do purple, but he does have orange and blue and a lot of it. And his favorite things are cheeseburgers and donuts. It's amazing what you can find on the internet. And there he is in his swimming pool. The condo complex it was a requirement. He had to have a swimming pool. And next. And this is his micro enterprise. I'll explain a little bit later. And next. There he is catching up with family and friends. So, like I said, I'm a parent of two sons, one with a career and one with a waiver. His daddy and I have been planning the lives since they were born, just like all parents. But unlike most parents, for Austin's life, we also had to manage it, maintain it, create it, and even do all the heavy lifting. And that just didn't mean moving him into his own place. We have been able to utilize many of the opportunities that the waiver gave him. We self-directed his service for 7 years. That has come to an end. That enabled us to pay staff $17 an hour and keep staff longer than normal. Had one staff for 3 months. For 3 years, not months like most families have. We were able to create Austin a personal support network with Full Circle. He also created a micro enterprise that grew out of COVID. Something good came out of COVID. Now we're utilizing supported living. He's a level 3 with 24/7 support staff and an enhanced rate. I can thank Dottie for that and her advocacy in that area. He has seizures and moderate intellectual disabilities. And yes, he is doing this in his own home, and he is happy. He moved in August. Starting in late 2020, he started having behaviors that we couldn't figure out. And as we know, hindsight's 2020. He was letting it be known that he did not want to be here. He is verbal, but he didn't have his words for this one. He decided he wanted to rip pictures off the walls. But see, now we look at it, and his brother had his house. During COVID, he saw his staff's apartments more than he ever had before, because where else could he go? So he was ready to be not in his parents' house anymore. I wish we'd figured out a little bit earlier, but we didn't. So we looked at a condo on July 4th. We closed on July 31st. We did a little bit of fixing up, and he moved in in 1st of August, all with this crazy housing market. He's very happy in his place. He lives in a small condo complex, had to have a community swimming pool. He enjoyed the community Halloween party. He is featured in the new newsletter that the neighborhood has. He's now making his own breakfast. He didn't do that at my house. He's doing his own laundry. He continues to enjoy the activities that he's always done, like music and bowling, shredding, and his fire bricks. You can check out his Facebook page, Austin Shreds. And that's where he takes a shredded paper. The local TV station did a story about his shredding business and how he takes them and makes them into like fire bricks, like Duralogs. And they, a company out of Massachusetts donated him a very, very fancy shredder. So now he has a really good shredder that doesn't overheat, 2 hours, and that made it easier to do his business. As a parent, this whole move has given me peace of mind, seeing him happy, and the plan is complete. Yes, there's bumps in the road, but sticking to the plan and giving him what he wants has been my goal, and he's getting what he wants. He still asks who's in charge, and sometimes we have to tell him different people because that's how you get things done. As a provider agency and as a parent and as an EOR, you had to really learn about all the different things that you can get from the waiver. So I thought I'd highlight those since so many people may have not heard them. When a person has the innovations waiver and they're moving into their own home where they have tenant rights, which is a requirement of supported living, they can get $5,000 in transition money to pay for the things you need: the sofa, the beds, the pots and pans, the shower curtains, all the things that you forget that you need. And that's a one-time $5,000, and you have a timeline about when you can do it, so don't screw up or you don't get the $5,000. There's home modifications that you can get into your home. So if you needed towel bars or walk-in showers or lifts and things like that, you can get those paid for. There's also assisted technology that can help pay for monitoring technology like Simply Home. I think there's other ones around, not all of them have contracts with Medicaid. And another one that people don't really think about, but at our agency, we offer supported living and specialized consultative. We use this one a lot to help the families or help the individuals and the teams. It's a consultant, an individual who has a license, like a mental health therapist, a BCBA, a rec therapist, a speech therapist, can work with the team to help create plans or guidelines or supports for the family and or the team. In our case, the families are always involved, even if they're in supported living. So this is a service you can use outside of supported living. This is available to anybody, but it's great to have. We've been able to use a dietitian to help create weight loss plans for an individual, rec therapy to help create activities. We don't like creating behavior plans because it's usually that they envision people trying to fix the person's behavior, but we're creating behavior plans to teach people how to create the environment, change the environment around the people, not change the people so they don't have the behaviors. So utilizing what Innovations has to offer is one reason to have it and to use all the services that are out there, not just your CLS. I do know that it takes a parent that has the knowledge about all these different parts and pieces. Sometimes you need the finances to buy the place, to help pay some of the bills. The dishwasher broke last week. We had to buy a new dishwasher, or we got it repaired. So plan with your support teams, and then you can take advantage of all these different options and make it work. We have an interesting lady who's in her 50s, and her famous thing she likes to say to parents is, your kid can do it. I did it. Nobody thought I could live on my own, and I can do it. So that's my story.
Thank you, Janet. That was wonderful. So good to hear all the progress Austin is making in his new apartment, and we're excited to see where things go for you guys. Thank you for
He's-
sharing tonight.
Sure, he's playing bingo with Steve Strom tonight.
Oh, man. All right. Now we know how Steve got out of this. Okay. All right. Thank you, Janet, again, and Austin. Next, we have the pleasure of hearing from Anna Cunningham. I have had a really great time getting to know Anna over the past year plus. She did a really powerful group pulled together, the NC DSP work group, and they have been advocating for DSP wages. And so I will not steal her thunder. I'm going to turn it over to Anna Cunningham. Welcome, my friend. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here. Just checking you all can hear me okay?
Yes, you are clear.
Okay, great. Well, first off, it takes a team to do anything, and I really want to make sure that I highlight that. The co-chair with me, Annette, is also on this call. She was able to join tonight. I'm so excited to see her here. So Annette, feel very comfortable to jump in whenever you like. I want to say a huge big thank you also to just the great people who are involved in this effort. And so I'll go into that in just a moment here. So community conversations, love the title. And we are going to be focusing here about the North Carolina IDD DSP's workforce in crisis. We are a North Carolina DSP work group, and we meet, go ahead, next slide. And we meet every week on Thursdays. And we're a statewide North Carolina direct support professional work group. That's a statewide work group focused on addressing the crisis shortage of DSPs for individuals with IDD in North Carolina communities across the state. Our group is led by individuals with IDD and family members from across the state. We're fortunate to also have providers, DHHS staff, policy experts, LME representatives, and others as part of our growing statewide group. Our mission. I think sometimes we take some of these points for granted because we in the trenches really know this and live this, but we like to say it out overtly as well. We believe that the North Carolina DSPs are the backbone of the service delivery system for individuals with IDD living in the community. We know that a majority of the services require a DSP to actually be activated. The DSP job duties can be both rewarding and challenging. And not everyone has the skills, knowledge, capabilities, mindset, and heart to do this critical support role well for individuals with IDD. We all have experienced that and know that. And there exists a crisis shortage of DSPs in North Carolina for individuals with IDD that has greatly worsened since the pandemic. So very simply, but not so simply, right? Our mission is to increase and strengthen the DSP workforce for individuals with IDD in North Carolina communities. Next, what we do, thanks. We have convene ongoing weekly statewide meetings on Thursdays at noon. Educate ourselves and others. We have a member Facebook page, public website, researchers that we connect with, area experts and decision makers. We connect with interested community members, decision makers, policymakers, and other groups to understand their needs and concerns and to help them better understand the needs and concerns of individuals with IDD and their families in North Carolina. Support and develop several outreach webinars and opportunities to connect to both the IDD community and the community at large, because we don't know what we don't know. And it's very important that we really learn from each other and have that as the mindset. We advocate strongly on related timely issues like the COVID vaccination schedule to properly prioritize individuals with IDD, their DSPs and family caregivers. Those were on different levels and we're like, who's gonna go when, what, and where? That was so confusing. The need for accessible, easy to understand materials to better navigate complex system decision trees on the standard plan versus the tailored plan eligibilities and choices, etc. We also encourage quality data collection and assessments that relate to crisis shortage seen in the trenches with the system of care entities. Want to understand what we're seeing in the ground in the trench. How is that being seen up above? How is that getting translated? Is it or is it not? And so we connected with the North Carolina DHHS to encourage a wage study, and with the LME MCOs to encourage them to look at and assess their data related to improving understanding around coverage gaps between the authorized hours and staffed hours in their catchment areas that indicate shortages of DSPs. And there are many of you here on the call that really help to push that forward even more and increase the understanding and the impetus for that knowledge and understanding. Because without understanding how, what we're actually at right now for the wage, it's very hard to know how much do you need to ask for to get the wage increased. And what does that actually look like? And honestly, the budget process doesn't permit you to be able to allocate unless you have a really good wage study. And that's also what puts us at a disadvantage when we do not have that kind of quality data. Now, and also connected with other groups who are interested in similar topics, like the Olmsted Workforce Group, Matt and Matthew's wonderful DSP workforce effort that you all have heard about, the developing the training program through Mount Eagle, which is so fantastic, and the IDD and TBI roundtables, the state CFACs, the FI essential jobs, essential communities. I know Heather's here and she's gonna be able to share a lot with that, to name a few. But we're trying to figure out what we know, what we don't know, and figure out how we can work together to really solve what we're learning together. And so our first target area was to address the disparity of DSP wages in North Carolina. To truly understand the wage levels, we recognize the need for the accurate, detailed data about current wages for DSPs providing innovation waiver services, because that was our first target, is to do the innovation waiver, because we know that also increasing slots, we want to see that. People are hurting, they're hurting very badly. And we want to make sure that there is really something there to be able to have access to. And we know that the DSPs are the backbone of accessing most every single service available. And so we investigated available wage info and survey for North Carolina, for example, like the National Core Indicator Salary Survey, which is voluntary at this time. None met quality criteria standards that were needed for decision-making, as I mentioned. We really need the proper wage study. And I know the state is actually doing some great work towards that, which is great to hear. But it also takes time and money and resources to do that. And so we asked for some allocation with decision makers, hoping that that will be able to help that happen. Reviewed existing funding streams to better understand whole system interactions, and if any potential for additional sources of sustainable DSP support. Like I said, sometimes you don't know what you don't know about what's flexible or not. And we learned that single stream funding is one of the most flexible funding streams there are, as well as the state dollars. But we know that both of those, can be very limited at times. And we work to support opportunities to encourage wages for DSPs providing services. Yes, in the ICFIDs, they already had all their proper wage studies, so they knew exactly how much to ask for. And the IDD DSPs providing services in the community to match the wages of the DSPs working in state IDD developmental centers, which it was set by the state to be $15 per hour. And we really want to increase the parity across the IDD continuum. It should, the truth is if you're doing the same type of work, you should get the same rate of pay. It's that simple, but it doesn't seem that simple. And I know that this doesn't include the compensation packages. I agree. There's a lot of threads that we still have to move forward on, but you have to find your first target and you have to figure out what can we actually move the needle on. And this is where the group landed. We advocated for inclusion of rate increases for the HCBS Innovations Waiver DSPs with accountability to show that those raises actually get to the DSPs, and encouraged requests for funding to develop a proper strategic plan that will achieve parity of pay over a reasonable amount of time that would also include accountability from the state level to show that. Next, please. So the entire system of services, as I mentioned, I can't state that enough, for people with IDD depend on DSPs. The direct support professionals will make far less than the state DSP employees that do the same job in state operated facilities. Currently, the state DSP employees make a minimum of $15 per hour as set by North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Direct service professional turnover is very high, and our providers compete with food service, retail stores, adult care homes, and home health agencies for staff. And I know everyone needs staff in the human service sector. And I think that that's something that we are learning more about, and that is true across the United States. We work to encourage an increase in minimum wage for DSPs and for a study to be done to determine the amount of funding that would be needed to actually increase the DSP salaries for the innovations DSPs. active engagement and advocacy with decision makers, including the North Carolina legislators and key leaders, on recognizing the dire need to increase wages for the NC Innovations DSPs to better meet both the current shortage needs and hopefully, right, we're all hopeful, those new allocated waiver slots too. But we don't want to have a door that opens to nothing. We want to make sure that there is supply of services. And when the supply of services is a direct relationship with having a good DSP, we want to make sure that we're really honoring and taking good care of our very valuable, most valuable resource, and that is those direct support professionals who are there every day helping our individuals to live the life that they choosing to live. Next, please. So how can you help? Well, you can join with us. Help to increase the dialogue about the DSP, increasing them and strengthening the workforce. Remember, this is target one. We definitely want to keep moving that needle because we know this is only just one step. We understand those who have more complex needs, like my daughter. I mean, $15 an hour may not attract, even with that, to be able to care for my daughter. And also to please provide support with your knowledge and special skills and talents and shared interests and your stories of lived experience and expertise. Those are most valuable, as together we can actually make something move. Support our efforts to encourage engagement and support on the DSP crisis shortage and related issues. And suggest and encourage strong partners who can help us reach our goals together and to increase and strengthen the North Carolina DSP workforce. If you're interested in any of this, please don't hesitate to contact Annette or myself. And I will tell you that Annette is so much better at communication via email, and I encourage that. And a big shout out to you, Annette.
You, Anna, and the NC DSP Workforce Group.
Well, and I want to share with you an update. The latest update about where we are with where the legislature is, you know, the budget has gone to the governor. And the governor and the conferees, they are hashing out little details. But according to what our understanding is right now, there is still something in there for us. I don't know what it is. And I think we're all on pins and needles to be learning. And it's supposedly maybe next week. We hear that each week, but we're just hopeful. And we are very encouraged that we have had so much engagement in hearing the issues and really understanding that challenge. So thank you again so much, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Let's get that bill across the threshold. All right.
And actually, it's a funding piece in there. Yes. And so that's very important. Yes. So I hope it helps everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather, we have got a couple of minutes here for you to give a quick update, and then we're going to move through our agenda to get to the panel after a quick break. So Heather with with NC Coalition on Aging, who has been working with PHI National on the Essential Jobs, Essential Care Workforce Group. And so Heather, please join us and take it away, my friend. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. I'm sorry I'm not at the Enrichment Center with everybody. It's been such an inspiring night, and it's amazing to see a community come together talking about inclusion and housing. And I think several of the speakers today said you can't wait on the state, you know, and I think that's true, but there's such interplay between federal and state opportunities, especially right now, but communities can't wait, and I think that's where all the action is, and that's where the momentum is. So I'm glad to be here, and I know you want me to run through this pretty quickly, Matthew, but I'm just going to take a few minutes to let people know what the Coalition on Aging is and just how we fit in here. So we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy group of 80 diverse organizations that come together to give voice on older adult issues. And so, as you can imagine, and our legislative priorities, family caregiving always comes up, as well as supporting direct care professionals. And we had an opportunity in 2019 to partner with PHI, which is a national think tank on direct support professionals, and they're in New York, to start to begin to develop and advance policy reforms around direct care workforce in North Carolina. And so they partnered with 3 states, North Carolina, New Mexico, and Michigan, to begin to really plant the seeds to allow us to do some grassroots advocacy across all direct care professionals. So you heard Anna speak so passionately about DSPs who are critical and the backbone of the waiver programs, innovation waivers, and also institutional settings. But you know, there's a lot of other people who are supporting individuals, whether they're in long-term care facilities, nursing homes, adult care homes. Older adults depend on them just as much. And so we have 120,000 direct support professionals in North Carolina. And just like Anna said, they're vying for these, you know, we're in a crisis situation. And so employers are really challenged to have adequate staffing, and that is across all settings. And the median income is really the average median hourly is $11.44. So where you have in the state centers of $15 an hour, you've got to move that going to $15 an hour with innovations waiver. That's not the case in older adults and home care, as well as adult care and nursing home settings. So this initiative is allowing us to partner across all different settings. So we're not acting as these segmented groups. So, you know, Medicaid is the funder of all this, and it is very siloed, depending where you get your care, how you get your care within government. And so this opportunity is really to lift all boats so that we're not seeing competition among those workers. And so we've been working with our Essential Jobs, Essential Care initiative to really focus on improving data that's so critical, improving wages and compensation, and as well as thinking about training and curriculum and other innovations to help support recruitment and retention. And so Anna's absolutely right about the state budget. I'll say one thing that was successful. It's not over the finish line, and we'll see if there's a budget and if it gets signed. But House Bill 914 really was a huge effort to support direct care professionals across all of those settings, and it was done in a way. It was proposed to do a wage pass through. So everything's so dependent on those Medicaid reimbursement rates, as everybody knows, and so this opportunity was to lift permanently those Medicaid percent of that wage. That increase went to direct support worker wage increases. And so we did see that included in the House budget. We saw that in the governor's budget. And we'll see if it comes out in the final budget, but that would be particularly exciting. We also had an opportunity, North Carolina Medicaid applied for American Rescue Act dollars connected to HCBS services. So it developed a pot of money through increased FMAP that would also assist in increasing wages for HCBS workers, or would also be individuals on the innovations waiver. So I think that's exciting. You saw some of that in the House budget as well. So we're doing good work, and I will say there is collaboration across so many industries, just because we're at such a crisis situation now with direct care workers. And so all of that's bringing us together, because we don't want to just fix one system. We want to fix all of it, and we're just going to do more harm kind of isolating some of this. So I would just encourage people to reach out and think about other non-traditional partners, because we're all really trying to move the needle on this issue, and it's going to take all voices. So I'm pleased that we're part of our Essential Jobs, Essential Care initiative. I also just want to make a couple of comments about the Build Back Better Act. We know this morning there was an announcement from President Biden who really laid out the framework for the Build Back Better Act. And I think it's particularly exciting when we think about home and community-based services, and we think about the opportunities it will provide direct support workers and caregivers. So initially, what we heard in the news The original allotment for the home and community-based services segment was going to be 400 billion. That's now down to 150 billion, but it will be focused on community-based services related to Medicaid. The other good news is it will be focused on direct care workforce. So the details will be in the legislation. They're not laid out in the framework that was laid out today, but I think it is historic and it's exciting and it provides us some new opportunities. And hopefully North Carolina will be incentivized to take advantage of those full opportunities. So thank you guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Heather. That was fantastic. And we got some good news coming, right? That's positive. Let's get some money.
But let people know that this is important. This is the time to be calling your congressional leadership there.
Absolutely. And if you go to the next slide, Jonathan, we will kind of direct you to doing that. So the ARC has put out a call to action and is asking folks to go ahead and click on this link and advocate to make sure that our DSPs are focused in this advocacy action and that home and community-based services are fully included. So anyway, follow the link there when you get the slides or go on to ARC's website and you can find the call to action. Thank you, Heather, and the NC Coalition on Aging. That was fantastic. Next slide. All right, I am going to welcome up Kaylee Hildreth with the National Academy Foundation. She operates the Health Sciences Magnet Program at North Forsyth High School and has helped us collaborate with our young adults who are seeking career paths. And she's got about 30 seconds. I'm just kidding. You got about 2 minutes. Thank you, my friend.
That's all I need. I took his time limits to heart, so I will be brief. But like Matt said, my name is Kaylee Hildreth. I serve as North Forsyth's Magnet Coordinator and our NAF Academy Director. So North Forsyth is the district's, the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District's only health science magnet program and the only health science career academy. So part of who we are, and you can head to the next slide. So I'm excited to be able to share a little bit about who we are and how we align with this conversation and we align with the work that's happening here. And, you know, thanks to Matt for including me and giving us this opportunity. But as a health sciences academy, we are focused on providing students opportunities to graduate and impact their communities in some really authentic ways. And we also offer 4 magnet pathways that give students an opportunity to graduate with something more than a high school diploma, something that's going to put them out in the workforce and give them a leg up. And one of those pathways is a nursing pathway that has the opportunity to result in a CNA certification. And so that's how Matt and I kind of started to connect. And so part of our mission and vision is that we're preparing students for these post-secondary opportunities, but also that we're preparing students to make an impact in the community that they live in. We know that our students stay local, and so we encourage them to find meaningful ways to utilize the education that we are giving them and that they are taking advantage of through us. And so building that legacy and getting students to mirror and really promote the diversity that we have in our building, go out into the community and do that as well. If you'll head to that next slide. So part of how we do that across the board in all of our magnet pathways, but also how we really align with this conversation and make some connections here, is that we look to build a workforce pipeline in our students. So we, like I said, we know that our students stay in our community, and so it's really important for us to be able to have students that are positively impacting and that they're really well prepared to do that. And so offering this workforce pipeline building through kind of a multi-pronged approach where we are exposing students and really exposing them early. So starting in the 9th grade, exposing them to the career opportunities that are out there that really that align with our pathways, but also that are new things that they hadn't quite heard of. And so we had 3 students who were able to build on their exposure and then kind of apply it. And with Matt and Matt Potter, through a DSP certification, they were able to sit in through the coursework. And so the goal in scaling as we look to move forward is to take those 3 students and increase that number. And so that we have students who are graduating ready to address this crisis and ready to plug into your agencies and your organizations. So taking what they've been exposed to, taking what they've been involved in, and then applying it in terms of they're academically prepared to serve the community, but they also have the character development, the leadership development that it takes to serve this special community. So thank you so much for your time. I will have my contact information with the slides as well. So if there's ways for us to connect, I look forward to it.
Thank you, my friend. Great job. It's been a pleasure because we know that the future is in our young adults. And we know that if we want to solve the problems of today, we have to work with the youth of tomorrow. And so this is an essential partnership for this whole project. And I thank North Forsyth High School so much, so much for being a part of it. All right. I know that we have a limited amount of time before we need to wrap up tonight, and we haven't quite got to the panel. So with my fellow instructors' permission, I'm going to probably skip through a couple of these here, but just to give you a quick synopsis, there was a training program that's been mentioned several times that was developed for direct support professionals. It's a partnership entity project with the National Alliance of Direct Support Professionals and Open Future Learning accredited curriculum. Mount Eagle College came on board to partner with us to implement it. And today we are training staff. And so we have our second cohort getting ready to graduate. And our friend Teresa McKeon with Arc of Davidson is back here, who continues to promote the program with her staff and ensure it's alive and well. So
Real
thank you
quick,
very
Matt,
much, everyone. Yes, sir. Jump in, Mr. Potter.
The second cohort has their final class with me tomorrow morning. So they will be graduating after that. So just
let's give a big Yahoo. And so the core feature of this program is that it's taught and instructed by persons with lived experience using accredited coursework and national recognition. This is how we advance the career path. All right, my friend, if we will skip along here, I think we're going to go ahead and move right into, keep going all the way down to the panel. Awesome, very much, I appreciate it. Okay, so at this segment, take a break. If you need to use the bathroom real quick, grab a drink, grab something to eat. Yes, please come on up. We can. Oh. Hey, $10. So take advantage of the vaccination clinic, grab a drink, grab a coffee, grab a tea, and then come back for the panel. For those of you who have to jump off at 7:30, we thank you so much for being here tonight, but please stick around for the panel after you get your COVID and your ice cream, or not ice cream, your cookie and your drink. We will be right back, everybody. So our panelists, please come to the front and get cozy. We are going to be welcoming, well, Janet Price will be online. We've got Mark Steele, Adrian, and Brian with Solutions for Independence. We've got Bill and Julie Lincecum with Bill Lincecum and Julie Coons with Osprey Village, and Michael Blair with Piedmont Triad Regional Council. Emoji's happening big time. I'm gonna have to wait. Emoji's got it going on. Get the emoji. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first question for all of our panelists is going to give opportunity to introduce themselves and their agency. And so I'm going to start with those who have not introduced themselves yet. And so I'm going to start with Bill Lincecum and Julie Coons with Osprey Village. So if everyone could come back, pay attention, and we're going to kick it off. Mr. Bill and Julie.
Thank you, Matthew. My name is Bill Lincecum. I am a landscape architect and an architect, and I've been involved in community planning for my entire career. I happen to have a disabled brother and a disabled granddaughter. So it's been my passion in life and really my calling to help organizations and efforts and endeavors as we have talked about tonight. I'm also a board member of Osprey Village. I'm a past president, and my principal responsibility over the past 12 years has been to research communities throughout the country that relate to the disabled population. We have done that successfully, and we presently are in the process of planning and designing and constructing a community in Hardeeville, South Carolina. Many of the things that have been discussed tonight relative to providing a home-based community neighborhood are very much what we're doing in South Carolina. The whole idea of being inclusive, of creating an independent living community is very much about what we have talked about. You all have really established the program in all these discussions tonight as to how we're going to proceed with the ideas that relate to Osprey Village. We're very honored to be a partner with PTRDC and Mount Eagle College, and look forward to working with all of you in the future. Now, Julie Coons, please.
I got a smaller crowd now. That makes me feel better. Okay. My name is Julie Coons. I am the Director of Operations for Osprey Village. I've been with Osprey Village for about 5 years. I moved to the low country of South Carolina 9 years ago from Northeast Ohio, and became involved with Osprey Village when I was educated through another company on the dire need for housing and the great disparity that there is in housing for these individuals. And I thought that this would be something of a simple project. I was wrong. It's a very complex project, and it's something that is coast to coast, a huge issue. In fact, Osprey Village gets calls 2, 3, 4 times a week from everywhere from Canada to California to Florida to our own state in South Carolina. I will tell you that I am so grateful to be here and see the unity and the support that you have. I understand that there's a lot of barriers in this state, and I understand there's a lot of need in this state, but I can assure you from having looked at this in other states, you guys coming together like this as a group is huge. Bill and I actually talked about it yesterday, that we were blown away because we don't see that in South Carolina, unfortunately. And we're hoping that we can use this as an example to show South Carolina that the support is the first step. Getting everybody together and on the same page is critical. And we're so, so grateful to be here and be able to see it. And we do hope that we can help. We have a table in the back. We have literature and bags with candy in the bags and pens and stuff. And any questions that you might have about what we do, please get a hold of us. We also have a great newsletter, and you can keep in contact with us on a monthly basis. So we enjoy listening to you and talking with you.
And Mr. Dooley, care to reintroduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Brian Dooley, and I'm a community solution to independence.
Community Inclusion Specialist with Solutions for Independence.
And I've been working there for about 6 months.
Been working there for about 6 months.
We're starting new, so it's a very exciting time.
just getting started new and a very exciting time for Solutions for Independence too. Thank you, Brian.
Mark Steele, Executive Director of Solutions for Independence. As I said earlier, housing is the one thing that, or the thing that we get the most calls about. The services that we provide to individuals with disabilities touches all aspects of their lives, from employment, housing, play, the whole gamut. And we get, so the need is great, and it's been there a long time. You've heard that throughout the evening, the great need. And so finally, I mean, I've dreamed of a place like this for 30 years, Matthew. So it's good to see we're finally getting some progress in that direction.
Thank you. My name is Michael Blair. I'm the Community Development Director for the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. We have the banner in the back. We actually, we preserve affordable housing through our rehabilitation program here in Forsyth County. We have the weatherization program, which helps income eligible people pay less for their electric bills or their heating bills, insulation, HVAC, things like that. So if you know anybody that might be income qualified for a program like that, let us know. In addition, in all these other counties, we have resources where we help build affordable housing, but we don't have that here in Forsyth County. We're a little more flexible. We have a Section 8 program in Surrey, Stokes, Yadkin, and Davie, which is a housing voucher program, and we will take applications from people in Forsyth County. They will have to live in one of those four counties for at least a year, but we can find them a place to live too. So, you're probably more familiar with our AAA program, our aging program, or our workforce program, but we in Forsyth County are kind of limited to weatherization, but we can help outside of that if anybody needs it. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Janet, you want to jump back on real quick?
Hi there. I'm Janet Price Farrell, Executive Director of FIRST. We became a provider for VIA, and we're also a provider for Partners back in 2014, doing a variety of services, training community navigators, specialized consultative, and supported living. We only do services like the periodics, the individual services for people that are in a supported living situation, and really enjoy doing it, helping the individual live their lives and make their choices, not the choices of even sometimes their guardians. So it's been fun. And now we're doing it for my kids. So I'm interested to answer any question.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, this is your chance, audience. I'm sure you have some burning questions to pose to our panelists. So while we're here together, does anyone have a question they would like to ask someone on the panel? Vladimir, come up, my friend.
I'm Vladimir Rodionov. What program do you have started in Winston-Salem, and what's happened in the future?
Yeah, anyone? Is there programs that have been started in Winston-Salem to begin addressing this problem, or any solutions that have been proposed at this date? Michael?
Well, yes, actually, our development corporation, which is our 501c3, working with our partners there here, are attempting to build something that would be serving the people that we've been hearing the stories about for today. And I have high hopes for it, but we will see how that works out with Forsyth County, and it will be unique. And it will be a challenge, but my department will provide the construction management and things like that, because that's what we do. I'm not as much into the social services as everybody else is here, but we build things, and that's hopefully we can make this work.
Just to support what has previously been said, we have actually come to Winston-Salem. They have indicated there are potential up to 30 sites where this neighborhood could be located. We have reviewed probably the top 5 or 6. So we've done that initial planning, and the intention in the program is to develop approximately 90 to 100 units that would include both market and affordable housing. And the intention is to make it
inclusive, to support independent living. There would be a community clubhouse that would be the center for activities, really the community center. It would include many of the things that you saw in our booth in the back. It would have swimming pool, activity center, movie theater, game room, dining facilities. All of those things would be available to the resident population. They could live with their friends, family, and peers. That's the intention. So they have a connected, viable community. We would also have apartment living, and the intention is to provide an age-in-place solution so families have a choice. They have the answer to the issues that are so important to them and their loved ones.
Yep, yeah, push the Zoom people can hear you.
Sorry. So what are we approximately looking at time period for something like this to occur?
Yeah, this is obviously dependent on funding and how much funding, but conceptually what we're talking about is doing first a feasibility stage, which would fine-tune, customize the program to this community. We have many of the components that we feel would be appropriate to this community, but we would have to do some customization, understand how services would attach and be affiliated with the community. It would be somewhat land dependent, which site is provided. It would be somewhat dependent upon if the land is given or if we have to actually purchase. Once we do the feasibility, and that really includes financial feasibility, that really sets the idea of constructing in motion. There will be a period of providing documents for construction. That approximately would take 9 to 12 months. So if we have, let's say, 4 to 6 months of feasibility, another 12 months of creating documents, entitling the property, all the things necessary to build, then we hopefully could start construction potentially 18 months from today. Would be approximate, let's say 18 to 20 months.
Best case.
Thank you. Other questions from either our Zoom attendees? If you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. Or if you want to come off mute and ask your question, or anyone else in the audience with a question? Okay, well, I'm going to pose just a quick then. If there are no other questions tonight, Mark and Brian or Michael, would you like to share any final thoughts?
I was just going to reiterate that at Solutions for Independence, we serve all disabilities, we serve all ages, and as I said earlier, we touch on all aspects of individuals' lives. So, just reiterate what we've already said, how great the need is here. If we had a place where people could go and live, it would make our job so much easier. It would make going to work a little more enjoyable. Instead of telling someone when they come to us and they're seeking housing that, yeah, we can help you find housing, but it may be 2 years before you get housing. And so that's the reality. And I mean, that's to get housing, and much less the supports that they need to live in the housing. So Bill, to your point, talking about the number of individuals just waiting to get those supports, much less the housing. I mean, so it's a complex issue, but having a housing piece in the community, I got a feeling that if we're able to pull this off and this gets built here, it won't be the first. There'll be many to follow. So, it'll be a game changer for our community.
I just want to point out that affordable housing in this entire country, it's either affordability for the middle income is going through the roof. And you see private equity putting $5 billion together with pension funds to go out and buy all the rental property they can find because they know they can make money on it, but they're providing 12% returns, 15% returns. We need to find people to do the same thing. Government's not going to do it, but you know, we need to create a fund here in Forsyth County that could maybe do something like that with local people with money. but also go bigger and see if we can do that. Because quite frankly, in a couple years, everything's going to be $1,500 a month, regardless of what neighborhood it's in, or what area it's in, or what condition it's in. So we just have to keep our mind on that and keep our eye on the ball.
Now's the time to start this because there's a lot of momentum with the homestead plan. So we need to do it now.
We need to do this now. Absolutely, Brian. Well, thank you, panel. I appreciate all your words of wisdom tonight. Thank you for being here. And before we close, so before you log off tonight, I want to make mention that at the back booth here, we have a call to action. And so Osprey Village has a flyer that addresses the county commissioners as well as other local representatives in our neighborhood and communities to implore them to fund a project like this. And luckily for them, they have one that they can approve today. And so please approve the housing project. Thank you all so much for being here.